Hello, everyone. My name is Yana Calou. I use they, them pronouns. And I'm going to be talking about ethics in tech again. And that's maybe the wrong emoji for this crowd. But it's usually the right emoji for most places I talk about this. So I am not here to talk about regulation or ethics boards. We saw some folks have only lasted 1 week. But I'm here to talk to you about the people who are actually building the tech that we use day in and day out, and you are the ones who matter today. But whether you're an engineer or developer or designer or not, it is massively important to every single one of us that the people who are building our tech, who know how it works, have some power over the way that the products that you build are used. I'm the Director of Worker Resources at coworker.org. We are a platform that supports employees in shifting power at our workplaces to win positive changes at our jobs. And we do this because we believe that by building power for a 21st century labor movement, that we can make powerful change in all of our lives. So for the last 2 years, what that's meant for me is that I've been traveling around the country speaking to workers in tech, a lot of software engineers, developers, about how to make changes at their jobs when every single thing that they've tried through the proper channels has not worked. So what are these humans asked to build, and what are they actually thinking about that? We don't always think that we have enough power to change things, that we matter enough, that we'll be listened to, that we won't get in trouble, that we are powerful enough to help our company shift gears despite all of the other kinds of pressures and considerations. But I want to share with you one thing that I've learned, a couple things that I've learned. This is actually possible. I want to give you some examples. But first, a few things that I've learned. It's the people who care the most that are doing this work. It's the people who deeply believe in the power and mission of tech to improve lives, to connect people. It is the people that are doing the work of making sure it actually does that. It's the people who are long-term devoted employees, who care about their companies, who care about their coworkers, who care about their communities, and they are a company's greatest asset. 2, conflict is democratic. So in this country, we believe in democracy, right? We believe in this for ourselves. We believe for this across the world. We believe in it so much that we safeguard it dearly at home. And we support others in maintaining it also. We believe that representation that is accountable to those who are most affected is a really profound principle. Conflict and debate are inherent to this democracy. It's a necessary part of the process in determining the best outcomes for everyone involved. But why is workplace democracy then so feared? Why are workplaces not democratic if we care about democracy so much? I guess that one is maybe more of a question and not a thing that I've learned, but they're not democratic, I'll tell you that. We know that. Third, this is really about power to be able to make these shifts when the stakes are so high. This isn't about perks. Many of us in this room have had really well-paying jobs, and we're working to understand our different relationships to the privilege and access that made us be able to do that. And we can say with relative confidence that many, but definitely not all, tech workers have some of the cushiest jobs out there, right? We feel empowered and maybe sometimes entitled to advocate for the things that we need. We can shrug off their problems as first world problems. It's really easy to do. But these workers have been listening to leadership use the phrases ethical tech and AI ethics thrown around without real systems for accountability or decision-making for those impacted. They've watched as ethics boards were formed, either at Microsoft, the Office of Humane and Ethical Use at Salesforce, be susceptible to continuing to greenlight contracts with ICE and Customs and Border Patrol while these agencies have engaged in some of the most egregious human rights violations of our time, separating families from children. So how did all of this change that we're seeing tech workers do right now come about in an industry without a foundation in labor? Well, I can tell you how the 75 tech workers that I sat with in a room in Brooklyn last year were feeling. Here's what they told me. They feel like they're not being told what they're actually working on. They feel like sexual harassment is a massive issue, and when it happens to us, we feel pressure to say something, but many people know that when it happens to them, it's not worth the personal cost and the structural injustice that happens on top of the original injustice. They feel intimidated and prevented from meaningfully supporting tech's large underclass of contractors who are treated and paid like second-class citizens across campuses. They feel like there's lack of transparency in leveling and promotions. They're scared to take their generous paid parental leave policies because they know what taking that actually means. And they have ethical and political conflicts with their work. I suspect they're not alone. It's no mystery to me why tech workers want a voice in making tech more human. But since no one individually has power to change these things, how does that change happen? Often we feel like these issues are not our area of expertise, or they're not happening on our teams, or they're not related to what we're specifically tasked with working on. So then, how have tech workers charted a path forward? How have they moved their CEOs and C-suite to doing the right thing? So we all know what's been going on at Google, and I'm actually not telling the story about Google to single them out. In fact, Google, and those of you in the room who work there, know that Google is full of incredible people who have done a massive job of creating a space where employees are raising their voices around what isn't right in their jobs. But I want to talk a little bit about what's happening there, because often when we hear about these massive walkouts, we think that we were just wondering how this happens, and it appears to just like come out of the blue and happen really, really organically, that one day people are just fed up and walk out, and that's what makes big change, right? But this didn't actually start with the walkout or with not renewing the Project Maven contract. All of this work became possible because underrepresented groups inside the company had a deep sense of the ways that the non-human components in their work could be turned against humans. They were personally experiencing the direct effects of this. Diversity advocates at Google were actually being doxxed internally. Some Googlers were the recipients of multiple death threats. While Google and HR refused to deal with problems occurring on their own technology, their internal listservs. These workers were the ones who were situated to understand the meaning of negative impact. So they reached out to us, and we supported their efforts to come together to demand accountability and say enough is enough. We can no longer say that free speech is always good speech, that there is no such thing as bad speech. But in order to address the problem of harassment, Googlers had to be organized amongst themselves and know what could fix this. They say we needed content moderation. We need policies that make clear that threats and harassment like this are completely unacceptable. Many of these employees, like many people in this room, have been doing the unpaid labor of equity work for years. When it didn't challenge Google's ideology or business model, it was all okay. But when it did, things started to change. This is what was going on before the walkout. It wasn't spontaneous. It didn't happen in this one moment of outrage. It was the result of a lot of hard work from a lot of people over many, many years. Outside stakeholders, like journalists and investors that we connected them with, were critical to leveraging that power and winning several policy changes. And the work they did set them up to be able to do the rest of the work and mobilize a walkout of 20,000 workers. So if you are already talking to your coworkers and brainstorming ways that you can make positive change, you are already prepping for this power building work. Tech companies are in a pivotal moment. As I look out at the ecosystem of stakeholders who are deeply invested in keeping tech ethical and accountable, we see ex-executives who are experiencing deep regret over the impacts of what they've developed. We're seeing elected officials that take the responsibility really seriously and are holding congressional hearings to be able to have execs come in and as they gear up to sort of pass some of these basic safeguards that we're waiting for. We're seeing scholars and racial and gender justice advocates being repeatedly forced to do the work of reminding tech leaders that we are disproportionately impacted by algorithmic decision-making and the products sold to law enforcement. But I'm here to tell you that it is tech workers who have been the ones who have achieved real accountability, that have taken into account the most impacted people. It's tech workers who, after literally the highest court in our land ruled that forced arbitration was completely okay as a condition of employment, said this is not fair, this is not okay, we will not be forced to suffer silently without recourse anymore. Tech employees are the ones who are lifting up gaps between the company's stated values and their own lived experiences and getting policy changed. It's tech workers who are highlighting the difference between actual accountability and closed-door decision-making that disproportionately impacts people. It's tech workers who have built powerful alliances with shareholders, because risks to underrepresented workers are also risks to companies and are also risks to our communities. It's tech workers who said Google cannot appoint a leader who works every day to deny people like me, my people, queer and trans people, our human rights to their AI ethics board. What these courageous employees are doing is actually taking up the larger public interest at some personal cost to some of the leaders I know. I owe them my deepest gratitude, and they have earned our overwhelming public support. This movement has shown us all that we need to be challenging the parts of our work lives that are broken. The stakes are too high. It matters for every single one of us that the people building tech are able to hold it to accountable outcomes. And we're just at the beginning. People are stepping up and expanding the terrain of where we can make changes in our own workplaces. At Coworker, we provide workplace education and resources for workers who want to make tech more accountable to humans. We help connect workers with each other. We help connect workers with stakeholders. We offer labor and employment rights trainings. We offer skills-building trainings to map power and influence in your workplaces, legal research. We offer media trainings to help people work confidently with journalists. We work to help the people who care the most connect to your coworkers to build the power that you need to have the difficult conversations that make tech accountable. It's easy to ignore one person, but it's really hard to ignore an entire network of people. So if there's something that you want to change at your jobs, our team of labor experts wants to do all we can to support you in making that change and making the tech that you work on more accountable to all of us. Thank you all so much.